Hi, so this is Ocean, your mixing and mastering engineer, your live sound engineer, in fact, your everything. So, in this video, I want to walk you through how I got this mix.
Let's tear the roof off of this house. 'Cause anything can happen when the break breaks out. Let's have church.
All right, so this multi-track, I got this multi-track from getmxu.com, and the multi-track is Let Have Church. So I got that multi-track and then I decided to create my own mix with it, and this is what I have. So let me walk you through everything, everything. So first we have our kick in, we have our kick out, we have our snare top 2, snare bottom, and then the snare trigger. We have our tom 1, tom 2, and then the overheads. And then we have our keyboard, and then we have our electric guitar 1 and electric guitar 2. We have acoustic guitar here, we have bass guitar, and then we have the synth. We have the loops, and then synth, another synth, and then we have the backing vocals, and then the lead vocal, and then another backing vocal, and I think another backing vocal. All right. So as usual, normally we start with the drums. Usually we start with the drums. So um, since I have the since I have the kick in, since I have the kick in, I started with the kick in. Let me mute the rest. Let me mute the rest, and then we go through quickly. Okay. All right. So this is the kick in. Let's play. So let me remove the everything from it. So this is the sound. This is the sound from the so first of all, I dealt with the EQ. I don't want to start everything from scratch because it will take a very long time. So this is how I tune my EQ. I cut from the 200 hertz to somewhere around 1 kilohertz, and then I boosted the highs around 5 kilohertz, and then I cut the low to about, I think I cut the low to about 30 hertz. I cut off 30 hertz from the low, and then the compression. This is how I did my compression. So the ratio was on 4. It's a kick drum, so the ratio was on 4, and the attack, I attacked it faster, and then I released it around 150 millisecond. So with this threshold, the negative 21 threshold, you could see that it's compressing. The when you want to compress, you don't need to have a fixed number. You just have to follow the particular instrument you are compressing, because some instruments, maybe by the time you reach negative 10, it's already compressed. So I compressed this one around negative 21. And then the gate, because it's a live recorded sound, we have a lot of bleeding. And so with this tuning, I think I was able to cut a little bit of the bleeding. Yeah, you can't totally cut off all the bleeding because it will definitely cut off the main instrument. So this was my setting for the gate. I put the attack on 2 milliseconds, and then I released it around 267 milliseconds. and then my threshold was on negative 30. Okay, so let's go to the kick out. So mostly the kick out, they are more heavier than the one inside. So okay, so this is the kick out. Let me remove everything. Why is it white? I think something is. Okay, so this is the kick out. So first of all, my EQ. So I also cut from the 200 hertz throughout to somewhere around 1 kilohertz, and then I boosted the 5 kilohertz. I think this one I cut the low around 20 hertz or something. Yes, and the compression. Okay, so you see this compression, the threshold was able to compress the whole thing around. It was able to compress the whole thing around negative 15. The other one was on negative 21 also, and I attacked it 2.4 milliseconds and then released it around 150 milliseconds. The ratio was on 4, and then I gave it a little bit of gain to and with the gate, to cut out some of the bleeding. This is how I did it. I think this, I was able to cut out almost all the bleeding with this compress with this gate, so you could hear it's coming out clean. So let's mix the kick in and the kick out, and then we have this. Okay. All right, so with the snare, we have the snare top 1, and then we have the snare top 2. So okay, and then the snare button. So let me just release all. So the EQ, I cut the low. I think I cut it somewhere around 120 hertz or something like that, and then you always have to cut those low frequencies to be able to shape up your mix and all that. And then I brought the mid frequencies down. I cut it down, and then to make the snare sound alive, I added some reverbs. So you see, I added some reverbs, and then the snare was sounding so good. So let me add the snare trigger with the reverb. All right, and then we have the tom 1. So this is the tom. I think there is nothing tom around here. Let me see. Okay, so my tom 1. Okay, let me release the overhead. So the overhead, basically, I cut all the low frequencies. In fact, I cut everything low, and then I brought the mid frequency, because the overhead, what I want to get from the overhead is it's the cymbals, the rights and the cymbals. So I have to do away with all the lows and a little bit of the mids, so that I can get the cymbals and a little bit of all the other drums. So okay, so basically I think this is the drum. This is the drum. So let me go to the keys. Let me go to the keys. So this is the first key. Okay. So this is the first key. This is what I did on the EQ. And the compression. And let me release the second one. And then the third key. And then the acoustic guitar. and the bass and the sync, the loop, the second sync. Okay, let me go to the lead vocals. Okay, so the lead vocals, let me play from this.
Let's join the heavenly sound. There's nothing like your presence. When the praise breaks out, let's have church.
And the backing vocals.
Let's tear the roof off of this house.
Then I have another backing vocals.
When the praise breaks out, let's have church.
If I want to go through the individual channels and how I worked on the individual channels, it's going to be a very long video. So this is basically the little I can actually do. So I did this mixing on my Studiolive 32SX, and this is the Studiolive software, that's UC Surface. Yeah, so you can do the mix using the UC Surface or the mixer board itself. But because of this video, that's why I'm using the UC Surface, because I don't have the cameras to show the console whilst I'm doing the mix and all that. So for the purpose of this video, that's why I use the UC Surface. So if you want the multi-track of this particular recording, you can let me know and I will send them to you, because it's for practical purpose. I also downloaded it from the site and I did my own mix. So if you want to also do your own mix, I can just send it to you and then you also do your own mix. Okay, so let's listen to the full mix.
Let's have church. Let's have church. Something happened when we Jesus. Something happened when the praise goes up.
Heaven
Comes down.
There's no other place we'd rather
Be than here right now. When the praise goes up, heaven comes down. Hallelujah. There's no other place we'd rather be than here right. Come on. When the praise goes up, heaven comes down. There's no other place we'd rather be than here right now. When the praise goes up, oh, heaven comes down.
All right, so see you some other time. Bye bye.